Welcome back to another episode of the Meat Mafia podcast. If this is your first time joining us, we have one goal and one goal only, and that is that you, yes you, listen to this podcast and get at least one valuable piece of information that inspires you to go radically change your health today. If this is your second, third, fourth, or 100th time listening to the Meat Mafia podcast, we are so grateful to have you, and we are so thankful for your continued support. Before we get going, if you would not mind going and following us on all of our platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course, Twitter, we would greatly appreciate it. This just allows us to expand our reach, and your reviews, comments, and feedback give us more and more things to think about and improve the show with. Lastly, this is a user-supported podcast and newsletter, and we would not be able to do what we love doing without your generous support and the support from our sponsors. We take great pride in the relationships that we've built with our sponsors and truly believe that they are the best resources out there for better health. Your support and their support, and you supporting them, means the world to us. If you are enjoying the podcast and getting value out of it, please check us out on the Fountain app below, where you can support us by streaming us sats or sending us support via our Fountain Bitcoin wallet. Without further ado, here is a word from our sponsors. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Carnivore Bar. The Carnivore Bar is a veteran-owned, animal-based company focused on bringing you the highest quality pemmican product on the market. Pemmican is an ancient tradition practiced by American indigenous cultures, and it's focused on simple ingredients: beef, tallow, and salt. It's built for grab-and-go snacking, and it's a great sort of travel, hiking, or school lunch snack. And it's really built for those long-lasting days where you can just run on basically no fuel other than just simple fats. It's rich in saturated fats and provides everything you need to sustain long-lasting energy throughout the busy day. In my opinion, this is a product that is an absolute must, so go check it out in the link below. Also, check out our podcast with the founder, Philip Meese. He does an incredible job breaking down the mission and the passion behind the company. And I think if you're interested in animal-based nutrition, Philip will inspire you with his product. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Holy Cow Beef. Holy Cow Beef is regeneratively raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef raised right here in Lubbock, Texas. Regeneratively raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef is the gold standard of beef, and Ann and Weldon Warren have made it their lives' mission to provide incredibly high-quality beef to their local community and beyond. They have been raising their animals this way for decades. In fact, they were some of the most influential voices for getting grass-fed and grass-finished beef in Whole Foods back when Whole Foods was a startup grocery store. They were influential in setting the AGA standards, which is the American Grass-Fed Association, so you know they are doing things the right way, and on top of all of that, their beef tastes like butter. Grass-fed, grass-finished beef provides a superior omega-3 to omega-6 ratio than your typical beef, or in other words, it causes less inflammation in your body. So you are promoting a high-protein, high-fat diet with this amazingly high-quality beef, and saturated fats are playing their critical role in benefiting your body through supporting hormonal functions and cellular functions. And if you're looking for the highest quality beef, look no further than Holy Cow Beef. Leave your butcher box, that Australian and New Zealand raised meat, in the cart and order from your friends Ann and Weldon Warren over at Holy Cow Beef. I almost forgot the most important part there. Ann and Weldon Warren also accept Bitcoin as payment, so go check them out at their website in the link below, and you can pay in Bitcoin or in cash if you're looking to save your Bitcoin. I don't know about you all, but I am all about rewriting the incentives when it comes to healthcare, and Crowd Health is doing just that. Crowd Health is essentially crowdfunding for healthcare with a small HSA component mixed in. Paying through the nose for health insurance you may never use, only to be turned away when you actually need it, is incredibly frustrating. Also, the exorbitant costs of health insurance has so many baked in premiums that when you compare settling your doctor's bills by paying in cash versus using insurance, the cost is astronomical. So crowdfunding allows you to settle your medical bills in cash and then get the funding you need from your group through Crowd Health. This is a great alternative to health insurance for people who are low risk, healthy people who just want peace of mind knowing that if anything actually did happen, they do have a pool of funds to pull from to cover their medical costs. The best part, my group is saving a portion of the monthly opt-in in Bitcoin, and the rest is in cash. So those savings are going towards actually preserving long-term value for my group through a vehicle like Bitcoin. We are really excited about this concept, and since the business model is predicated on an incentive-based healthcare, it is a great concept. For people with low risk, minimal healthcare costs, it is a no-brainer. Go check them out in the link below and use our promo code MAFIA for a discount on your first 6 months with Crowd Health. Dr. Kiltz, what's happening? Welcome to the Meat Mafia podcast. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's really a pleasure. I always I'm inspired by your work, and thank you for inviting me on to share my crazy story.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a mutual admiration here. And we were saying before we had hit the record button that you're a physician that we both look up to greatly. You have an amazing social media platform, really spreading knowledge on, the ancestral diet, carnivore diets, and how it plays a role in fertility, hormone health. And we know that you're a traditional physician by trade and have really dove in deep into the world of carnivory, and you've experimented with Atkins and paleo. So I think as a starting point, Dr. Kiltz, we'd love to just learn a little bit more about your personal nutritional journey and how that's converged with your career in Western medicine too.
Well, I'm a kid from LA. And I always say, I was kicked out of school, couldn't read, my father in jail, and I was in a gang. I was dyslexic, had migraines since a child, and ADHD, OCD, all sorts of craziness. And I was lucky enough to get into medical school after a significant lot of work. And I went into medicine to help people. And my sister had diabetes since age 4, so I saw the suffering that my sister went through. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to be a doctor. And traditional medicine, that's what I practiced for years. I learned how to treat diseases with drug dissections and doctors, but never learned the real cause of disease other than it's environmental, it's genetic related, or you're unlucky. And so that I spent the majority of my career on OBGYN, then fertility, reproductive endocrinology. I'm a full-time fertility physician and a surgeon. And about 20 years ago, I started CNY Fertility about 25 years ago in upstate New York. It's a fertility center. That's all we do is focus on those that are suffering from being infertile. But about 20 years ago, I started including mindfulness, meditation, acupuncture, massage, and yoga. And a few of my patients were getting pregnant on this thing called paleo diet. And I'm like, what's paleo diet? Knew nothing about it. But if someone's getting pregnant on something I didn't know about, I wanted to learn about it. So I began to read about paleo, and then I tripped over keto, and I saw some successes. So at the same time, I decided, okay, I'm going to do this because I was a health freak, a runner, biker. I hated swimming. But I was in keto diets, not keto, Atkins. And then I did Weight Watchers to try to slim down a little bit. I mean, I've always been lean, but you get that extra 20 to 30 pounds as you're aging. And I about 12 years ago, I personally went carnivore. And I stopped exercising, and literally it was the healthiest I ever felt. My migraines gone, my arthritis, psoriasis, bowel bleeding, and hemorrhoids gone. And I'm like, okay, I got to understand the why part of this because I'm a why guy. I want to know, well, why does this work? And then as I dug deep into it, I realized everything I was taught is wrong. And as a doctor, I got to do something about it. And it was really kind of COVID that really sort of pushed me out to the online, to the podcasting and stuff, because I was bored. And I wanted to share the story and help more people.
Nice. Well, you sit at an interesting crossroads because so many people are struggling with this fertility problem. And it does seem like a lot of people are finding success with the carnivore diet or just incorporating animal-based foods back into their diet. When did the light bulb really go off for you that incorporating, animal protein, animal fat was important for fertility?
Well, I don't think I knew all the why parts of it as I began to do it. And I never really talked about what I was doing as much as, keto seemed to be paleo and keto. I was reading all about it. But as I pushed through it more and come to understand that sugar is the cause of most of the diseases we take care of. And it turns out that all plants are mostly sugar, essentially, even lettuce and asparagus. And I constantly reading, and I don't know exactly where the thing was that I found the exact sort of story, but my story is a little bit different because I believe that fat is the only fuel for the body, never sugar. It must be converted from sugar in the liver to fat, or you'll die. And that when I read a book by called "The World Turns Upside Down" by Richard David Feynman, where I learned that carbohydrates are never required in the human diet. Right, so that means plants are never required, yet it's the majority of our diet. So something's really wrong with that. And when I began personally to do only fatty meat, and I threw away everything else of any significance or frequency, and I felt better, it's time to share the story. And so again, about 12 years ago, I personally went carnivore, but I really began to share it over the last 5+ years and write about it more and really share the fact that we are but what we eat. And so I always say the 5 causes of all disease are simple. Number 1, it's sugar. Number 2, it's the antigens, the inflammatory particles like lectins, oxalates, and phytates, just to name a few from plants. It's the chemicals. Let's see, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, cyanide, nicotine, and caffeine come from plants, but there are thousands of other chemicals. And then it's the fermentation of the plants in the bowel via the bacteria and the yeast. So that makes heat, alcohol, aldehydes, and gas. And the alcohol, our children are making alcohol in their gut since a very, very young age. And it's perpetuated throughout our lives. And it's fiber and the plants are fermenting. And then the 5th cause is excessive exercise, because we're exercising too much. You don't need to exercise to be healthy, but you just need to think differently, eat the proper human nutrition, which is fatty steak every day. And that's simple, basic story that my foundation that I share incessantly. Because, but interesting enough, you ask someone about their diet and they say healthy, clean, and organic. And those are marketing terms that have nothing to do with a diet.
By the way, fatty steak from Snake River Farms, right?
Oh, well, that's the one I love the most. And they have a great pork belly, and you want it. The real trick to health and wellness is eat less frequently, 1 time a day. Your fat to protein ratio should be at least 1-to-1, but 2-to-1 and 3-to-1 is even better, because we have very small requirements for protein, by the way, because the majority of our work is actually energy, not rebuilding. It's the rebuilding products of proteins, probably a lot less than you think. But and you need water, but not so much. Also, we're drinking way too much water.
Dr. Kiltz, do you have a certain, are you shooting for a certain percentage of your calories to come from fat? Are you looking at it at a total grams number? How do you think about approaching that as a fuel?
Well, I don't know what a gram is. I don't know what a calorie is. No one does, because, if we did, we'd all be skinny or fat because we're eating way too much and too little, but it doesn't matter. But I say about a 1-to-1 ratio but it's really, you might say somewhere between 60 to 80% of your calories should come from fat and about 20% of calories from protein. And then, if you're eating some carbohydrates, a little bit, maybe 5 to 10%.
Mm-hmm.
But if you understood that how carbohydrates and amino acids are metabolized, you get a better sense of it.
Got it. So it sounds like you had this period where you had clients that you said were going paleo, they're increasing their fertility. So you're like, all right, well, let me do some self-experimentation. Was there a particular just moment in time when you realized that if you isolated for just the animal protein, that's where the bang for your buck was coming from, and you really just didn't need plants? And to take it further, plants just didn't even actually want to be eaten in general?
Well, you want to focus on animal fat, not animal protein.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, protein only comes from an animal, not from a plant. Okay. That we did not get protein from plants of any significance. We got it from meat. But your requirement is for fat, and fat is the magic. So fat comes from an animal, oils come from plants. There's no essential oil. There's only essential fats from animals. So again, there's this focus on protein, which is wrong, because a high protein diet is a deadly diet, because there's something called protein poisoning, which is not good for us. So that's why the part people don't understand. Well, I'm trying to build my muscles. Let me get a lot more protein in. But essentially you might do that in a short term, but long term, you're not going to be healthy. So I focused on the fat, because fat does two things. Number one, fat suppresses the microbes in the bowels, from the lips to the rectum and the anus. So the microbes are one of the leading causes of damage. So probiotics are deadly, in my opinion. You eat the microbes, they come with the plants. You're used to a plant-based diet. So the microbes are making beer all day long, gas. So there's bloating. And so when you eat the animal fat, it suppresses the microbes, it protects the glycobiome, and you don't need to metabolize fat in the liver, because when you eat fat, it goes to the lymphatics, so it's distributed everywhere, because fat is the fuel for the body. And the simple answer is, why do we get fat? Because if you're skinny and effeminate, you're dead. The body, the brain wants you to be fat. And it is so simple.
It's such an interesting perspective. I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate that. And a lot of people kind of don't really understand fats in general too, because, I think there's a lot of talk recently around seed oils and different types of fats that are out there. Do you have a perspective on some of the oils that you should be avoiding, or some of the fats that you should be avoiding when it comes to, consuming fats?
Fat from an animal, oil from a plant. All plant oils are potentially toxic for us. Number one, they're all industrial. You and I can't go out hunting and gathering and get any significant plant oils unless you get it from a can or a bottle, right? Right. So it's not part of our natural environment anyway. So when you went after an animal, you did not want a skinny animal, and you don't want a skinny woman either, because without having fat, they're dead quick. And again, to understand the human physiology, we must have fat. Otherwise, we die, and anorexics die fast. And so it really is, is it which seed oil is good for you or okay? Olive oil or coconut oil, right? Okay, let's just say we might get away with that if you're a vegan. But if you're vegetarian, it's cream and butter. But even for some, cream and butter is still an industrial product of any significance, right? That was not sort of our truly ancient nutrition at all.
Do you have a preference, Dr. Kiltz, on animal fats that you like to cook with or advocate for people to cook with?
Well, let's see. I don't really cook with animal fat. I eat the animal fat. So I like to take my fattiest whatever and put it under a broiler and sear it black. And my pork, I might do a little more slow cooking, but I still like to sear it a little bit. But I would say lard, tallow, ruminants are probably better. They say, I don't, there are no ancient tribes of hunters that hunted chicken, turkey, and fish, maybe, but you had to eat the whole fish. You didn't just eat the fillet. The fillet is without fat. When people say a fatty salmon, cook a salmon in a pan and see how much fat renders into the pan. It's not very much. Yeah. You had to eat the skin, the organ meats, and the brain if you were wanting to be healthy. And if you look at the Inuits or many, they always went after the fattiest of the animals to be healthy.
Equip's unflavored prime has one single ingredient derived directly from grass-fed beef protein. For purists like ourselves who try to only consume balanced, real sources of nutrition, this protein powder checks all the boxes. Go check them out in the link below and use our promo code in the description to get a discount. It's interesting because we've steered so far away from eating saturated fats and animal fats, and then it's kind of coincided almost exactly at the same time with this drop in fertility. And I saw a study recently that said in the last 45 years, sperm counts dropped 50%. Can you kind of dive into what exactly is happening with the fertility in the US and elsewhere? Just, it seems like it's a bigger problem than most people really realize.
Well, all around the globe, the reproductive rates are dropping, especially in those cultures where we're striving to be successful first, have an education, have made it in something to be ready to have a baby, right? No animal waits to be ready to have a baby. They start menstruating and they get pregnant. That's all it is. But because the focus has been on a plant-based, low animal fat diet, it's deadly for male and female fertility. It damages our libido. It damages the quality and quantity of your sperm and eggs, disrupts your ovulation, and it probably disrupts, again, back to libido, our sexual drives. I think that's a big one. And unless there's a big change, it's going to get worse and worse. I mean, I'm busier than I've ever been as a fertility physician, but it's amazing how those that go to the animal based, it's really a high animal fat nutrition. So many men and women are healing fast, or getting pregnant naturally, and reducing miscarriages. And I believe, again, back to the plants, they contain estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, plus many other toxins that the plants have produced in order to make you fertilizer fast, to make you infertile. Plants are live organisms that have been around for millions of years, longer than you and I. And human beings think plants are just idiots. They have no sense of the universe, right? They are controlling us more than you know. We smoke them, we inject them, we drink them, and we put them all over our skin, and then we eat them. And so ultimately the plants are the predators and we're the prey. And a low animal fat diet is, again, the deadliest. Now, interesting, people say saturated fat or unsaturated fat or linoleic. I don't even know what those things really are. We make it complicated. It's Occam's razor says the simple answer is the one. And I'm a scientist. I'm a researcher. I know it all. I've read it all. But every time I spew out all these saturated, unsaturated, PUFAs, and whatever they are, it's simple. Fat from an animal. Because what is our body made of? Fat from an animal. There were no truly ancient societies that focused on a plant-based diet. And a plant-based diet is a scavenger diet. You could not find the hunt, and so you're going to do everything you can to eat something to stay alive. So basically, salads, fruits and vegetables, seeds and nuts are the majority of what most of us around the globe are eating. And eating lean meat, we're not eating fatty meat or no meat. and we're almost none of us are eating any significant animal fat. And that ultimately is causing reproductive dysfunction to happen in utero. So your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone levels are going to be affected in utero, which is going to damage your reproductive organs. They're going to develop abnormally. And then when it comes time for reproduction, it's not working. And that's the basic, simple answer.
Dr. Kiltz, when a couple who is having difficulty getting pregnant is coming to you and diet comes up in question, what are you really advocating to them to do? Is it as simple as just getting more saturated fat in their diet? Are you kind of prescribing them diet plans? Just curious.
Well, I call it the baby's way. And let's see if I think I have something here, but it's really simple. It's bacon, eggs, butter, beef, Kiltz's ice cream, and salt.
I love it.
That's it.
It's simple.
It's simple because, the problem is that our ancient nutrition was not difficult. It was difficult to catch and eat, but ultimately simplicity is the only way to do this. A meal plan. That's too hard. But I always say that I talk about nutrition, and some people, I'll ask them, I always go over there, what are they eating? And usually it's healthy, organic, and clean. And I'm like, no. Exactly what are you eating? Most people can't remember that, believe it or not. Wow. It's like, well, I eat healthy this or that. And I eat I eat a protein, a healthy fat. And then I ask, what's a healthy fat? Avocado and nuts. I'm like, wait a minute. Those are seeds and nuts and a fruit, right? Which means they're carbohydrates. But I write about it. I got a couple of books on it, and I talk about it because I asked them a simple question: what would you do to have a baby? The answer is anything. Would you change your diet? Well, maybe. Or no, I could never do that. But you just told me to do anything. But I have a sort of a plan for vegans, vegetarians, Mediterraneans, and those that are willing to do carnivore. Because ultimately anyone could do a keto diet and anyone could do a carnivore diet. But carnivore, by the way, someone might be eating a high protein, low fat diet. That doesn't work. Yeah. So you have to be really, really specific and spell it out. That's why it's fativore is really the way. But I like to go over the way to do it. And I always say, if you can eat one meal a day, you will get a lot of benefit from that. So fasting reduces the food in the gut to lower the overall glucose level. And that's number one. Number two is add some fat. Okay, butter, cream, eggs for the vegetarians. For the vegans, coconut oil, hemp seed oil, maybe some oil. And cook your carbs well to simplify them. So complex carbs versus a simple carb. Now, everyone says a complex carb is better. Complex carbs digest slowly in the gut, right? Mm-hmm. So that means you're going to secrete sugar into your bloodstream 24/7, 365, the day you're born to the day you die. Your insulin level is going to be higher. You're going to have more glycation. Glycation is rusting of everything in your body. And you're going to continue to make fat all day long because the function of insulin and the function of the liver is to make fat out of amino acids and simple sugars. If you learn that one simple fact, you can understand the physiology of the human body. Wow. Because if you eat complex carbohydrates, which is fiber and vegetables and fruit, you're feeding the microbes that are not good for you. Those microbes are making alcohol, aldehyde, heat, and gas. And you're putting sugar in your bloodstream all the time, right? Everyone says that's insulin resistance, right?
Yes.
Insulin resistance doesn't exist.
What do you mean by that?
Well, so what's the function of insulin? It's to convert sugar and amino acids in the liver to fat. Would you say insulin's doing a good job at that? Everyone's getting fat, right?
Right.
So now everyone says, well, your insulin levels, your glucose levels high, your insulin must not be doing its job. Right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But if you're putting sugar into your bloodstream all the time, isn't what it's supposed to be. Well, then you say, well, insulin's supposed to lower your glucose level. Well, it's not, because all your insulin says is there's a lot of sugar here. Let's make fat because the famine must be coming. Right?
Yeah. No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and I think that the idea of insulin sensitivity and our understanding of it is fascinating. I've actually never heard anyone say that, so that's why I was just a little caught off guard. But it's an interesting way of thinking about it.
It's wrong, our sensitivity. Okay, so the liver's function, 100% of the liver's function is to make fat. What's one of the most common diseases in the liver?
Fatty liver disease.
Okay, how did fatty liver disease even happen? You ate carbohydrates, which you have no requirement to eat. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
so what outside of nutrition, if you're looking at the whole scope of fertility and trying to decompose it, like what percentage of nutrition, or what percentage does nutrition make up of this fertility conversation?
5 causes of all disease: sugar from plants, chemicals from plants, antigens from plants, and fermentation of plants in your gut.
80%?
95%.
95? Man.
Look, again, it's a really hard one to believe. If you haven't read James Salisbury's book on alimentation, you must. You know about Salisbury steak, right?
Yeah.
And if Chafee didn't talk about it, he talks about this all the time. But basically, James Henry Salisbury graduated from Albany Med in 1850. He's a physician, a chemist, and a microscopist. In the Civil War, his men were dying of dysentery. So he studied them, and he gave them steak and coffee and took away all the other food. They all got better. Okay? So his book really pins it out easily. So when you eat sugar, the microbes love you, right? Now remember, when I say sugar, what do you think of?
Carbohydrates, fruits.
All right, but when you say carbohydrates, what are you thinking about?
I'm usually thinking about like processed carbs, to be honest.
How about salad? How about kale, broccoli, asparagus, carrots?
Yeah, those would fall in there.
All right, what plant doesn't fall in there?
Yeah, I don't think there is one.
There isn't, right? Carbon dioxide from the air, sunlight, and water make a long chain carbon particle cause a carbohydrate, right? So ultimately, the damage in the gut, where does that go now? It creates leaky gut because it damages the glycobiome, which you've never heard of.
No.
The glycobiome is the sugar coating that protects every cell of your body. But what dissolves sugar? Sugar. You eat the sugar, dissolves the sugar, leaky gut, deadly. Microbes get in, the antigens get in, the chemicals get in, and you leak all the stuff out. You get diarrhea, you get bloatiness. And so where do the reproductive organs sit? The pelvis. What sits on top of the pelvis?
The intestines.
Bowels, the GI tract. Okay. So, one of my patients the other day, she just had a ruptured appendix last month. Okay. Is appendicitis common?
It seems like it's increasingly more common.
Appendicitis, gallbladder issues, ruptured spontaneous bowel perforations, diverticulitis, osis, IBS, Crohn's, cancer. These are all bowel disorders. Every disorder of your body begins with the bowel disorder. That's the kind of the craziness to all of this, right? Now, okay, there are birth defects. There are men who are born with congenital absence of the vas. They have no sperm because they have an obstruction because they're born without the epididymis. How did that happen? In utero, they were likely exposed to a chemical from a plant, not an industrial plant, nature's plant that causes the DNA or the structural damage. That's it. So what percentage is caused by food? I'll say 95%.
Wow.
It's
of all diseases, by the way, all disease.
90. Wow. That's incredible. It's interesting to talk about Salisbury too, because I feel like outside of a small section of the carnivore community, nobody has known about him. And Chafee had told us that he had been treating Crohn's and colitis and IBS in the 1850s through this red meat removal diet, which is very, it means a lot to me just because I treated my ulcerative colitis through a carnivore diet, and I have a great GI, but when I'm going to him, he's not talking to me about dietary inputs as a way to actually treat this stuff.
Because we're fed a story that fits the paradigm, and a different out of the box story is usually shut down because doctors and scientists are they're blind to new and different ideas, and they're taught that way, unfortunately. And I always say, well, why wouldn't you be open to something that you don't know a thing about rather than automatically, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, red meat is deadly. It causes cancer, right? Yeah. So based on what story? And I always say, have you ever seen red meat in your toilet? And I know you look. You've never seen it.
Never see it.
You might see corn and peas and leafy stuff, especially when you get that diarrhea, everything comes out because plants are the predators and they want you to be fertilizer.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the right way to look at it, but I do think it's interesting, right? It's like if you see your dog or your cat go to the bathroom, I mean, they're taking 20 to 30 seconds max, and then they're good to go. And you contrast that to the human species. It's like there's people that are on the toilet for 30 minutes.
Well, the problem with dogs and cats is they're not eating a species-specific diet, because when you feed a lion and a wolf plants, they become domesticated cats and dogs. Cats and dogs are fed a plant-based, some animal meat, but it's mostly plant-based. If you look at Purina, if you just understand the history of Purina, right? It's a Puritan company. Same thing. Human beings are fed a plant-based diet for domestication.
So we're living through this sort of hormonal crisis right now, right? With sperm counts and T levels at all-time lows. And you just said that nutrition is kind of 95% of this whole equation. Does that mean that the diet itself, if you're trying to boost your T levels, is where everyone should start? Or are there other things people should and could be doing, like sleep quality, which there's a nutrition component to that as well. But what other factors should people be incorporating into their daily life to start to see some turnarounds in those hormonal functions that you address in your practice?
Well, number one is we measure hormone levels based on a plant-based diet. We measure vitamin levels based on the plant-based diet, and we espouse the levels to the cause of disease. But maybe it's not the hormone levels or the vitamin levels that's the cause. There's something else causing it, and the depletion in the vitamins or the hormones are a side effect of that. Okay. So in essence, we just giving someone a vitamin and or a hormone doesn't fix their problem. You need to take away the inciting molecules, which are the plant-based chemicals that are likely causing that. So when I talk about this, keto helps, paleo helps, keto helps, carnivore cures. And that's the one thing I tell. And again, it's fatty meat. I've seen so many people suddenly they feel better, but the problem is then you want to get a blood test and you want to prove it. And then I was like, oh my God, my levels aren't so great, but you feel great. But maybe those levels that you're measuring have nothing to do with your health and wellness. Function trumps facts. Okay? Remember, a scientific fact is just our belief of something. And look at Theranos. Who's the gal from Theranos that's going to jail for 11 years, right?
I forget her name.
To build a laboratory testing module, because do you know how powerful the laboratory testing platforms are?
Huge.
Huge. And everyone wants to know their numbers. Like they want to measure this and that. I don't measure anything. I don't measure any of it, right? Because listen, if you're not getting pregnant naturally, something wrong, even though all your numbers look great. So then someone says, well, I'm healthy. Well, you're not. If you're not reproducing, there's something wrong. So the birth control pill and the abortion pill are made from plants. Did you know that?
No,
I didn't.
Plant-based diet, guess what you're getting? And even teas and coffees are not good for us of any significance or frequency.
Interesting. So you don't drink coffee at all?
Oh, okay. I'm off coffee now for almost 5 months, more than 4 months now. And look at, because we always support the stuff we like, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Oh, I mean, of course we do. So for years, I was a coffee drinker, butter, milk, cream sometimes, but I love rich, dark coffee. It tastes good, feel good. And someone said there's less suicide. And I figured, well, I don't want to kill myself, so I'll drink coffee. But ultimately, I've been off it. I've never felt better. And I love it. I rarely have it now, and I rarely drink alcohol. And I'd say these things of frequency are not good for us. But which is the worst thing you could do? Certainly excessive alcohol and fruits and vegetables and lean meat is the biggest killer, in my opinion.
What are some of the noticeable changes that you've experienced since cutting out coffee 4 to 5 months ago, Dr. Kiltz?
Someone said I'm calmer.
Calmer. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the real difference. I feel about the same, but I have tremendous amount of energy on this nutritional way. And I sleep about 6 hours a night, 9 to 3. I'm up at 3 a.m. usually every day. I do a little bit of weights and walking and writing. But I always listen to a book. Spirituality is something I think very critical. I have faith in God. I see God in everything and everyone. And I think those are big components that we can't forget about, because like Wim Hof is a vegetarian. He's amazing. I don't know if you've studied Wim Hof at all. The Iceman does amazing things based on a lot of meditation and breath work and cold work. So there are other ways to do this, but many of us are not so good at that. The nutrition is like top notch that I think, but again, my energy, my creativity is off the charts, and I'm 67 in March, and I feel younger and younger and younger every day.
What has been some of the keys for you to kind of harness that aging well and really feeling vital as you get older?
Never use the words aging. We're getting younger and more vibrant and healthier. And I always say the mind is the master. You as a doctor, what do we tell people? Oh, you're getting too fat. Your numbers look bad. Oh my God, you're just doing a poor job. Is that a good coach? Would you coach someone to be, weight lift or be in any game? And no, doctors are negative Nellies, and we're not open to new and different ideas, but we need to be more like, I'm your friend. I tell you, wow, you look great. How you doing? I had a conversation with Finley from, he's got a podcast on weight and exercise and health and wellness. And we were talking about, if you're 300 pounds, let's see, you guys are in the 100s or something like that. If I put an extra 100 pounds on you to carry around all day, would you be easy?
No.
But if you can do it, would you consider yourself strong?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Is it possible those people that are 200 to 300 to 400 pounds are stronger than you and I know?
Definitely.
Okay. And so within that human being is this great bone structure, these great muscles, but we only see the fat. See, we see the ugliness. All right. This is how medicine sees a patient, right? We don't see a beautiful, healthy human being. We see something judged negative. And that's the problem with medicine. And the number one Last discrimination area is obesity, which we've got to stop because plenty of skinny people get cancer and die. My good friend Dave Kilmer was a great, amazing, healthy doctor at age 52, gets lymphoma and dies in 3 months.
Wow.
And that's one of the turnarounds for me. He died about 15 years ago. It was like, okay, why did he die and why did my sister die? Those are the things that set me on my journey to ask the question, why?
Mm-hmm.
And the why is simple. A healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle. That's the killer.
Do you think Western medicine is coming around to this idea of finding the root cause and wanting to actually prescribe diet and lifestyle as the solution?
Well, I guess I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Baker, Chafee, Ken Berry. I mean, there are many, many more, and those are just a very small fraction. So I think it's growing. We're seeing groundswell, but people say to me, well, what about cholesterol, Dr. Kiltz? Right? I'm like, well, what about cholesterol? Like your body's made of fat. So what's the building block for your body? Is it protein or fat?
Fat.
It's fat. Every cell is made of fat. If you don't have fat, you dissolve in water. Fat's the reason we even exist or a cell exists. So I think we're coming around, but I teach medical students and residents and I talk about this and they're like, woo. And I'm like, well, how many carbs are required in the human diet? Well, 100. I'm like, how about 0? And they're like, no. And what's the function of the liver? Detoxify. Okay, name a disease that your liver's not detoxifying. Alcohol. Alcohol was around 50,000 years ago? No. So I'm hopeful in this journey of sharing what we're doing because when I went to medical school, you had to get into medical school, get a library card to be able to have access to any of these journals, right? And nowadays, you have it on the web. But the problem is there's still a lot of closed access information because the peer-reviewed journals and the peer-reviewed organizations are closed in so many ways. And they're supported by what?
Yeah, big corporations funding them.
It's just money. And again, we're all looking for the same thing, success in one way or another. But I mean, why would anyone buy Bitcoins? It's the same reason we trust our doctors because someone says it's good. And I always say there's no doctor but yourself. Your job is not to trust your doctor, but trust yourself. You do the research. You get out there. You do something that you haven't done before. That's why carnivore is like the game changer of the universe. And I always say faith, fertile fatty foods, 1 meal a day, and just go do something. Stop sitting around and watching TV.
So you're loving it when your patients are acting like the CEO of their own health and they're questioning you and they're making you step your game up, right?
That's a very good term. Be the CEO of your own health and your life. It's time. And it doesn't matter who you are. Anyone can do it. Our jobs as physicians and podcasters, and our job is to bring information to all human beings, right? We got to get rid of these idea that there's a sort of a differences in human beings. We're not.
Yeah.
Every single cell of a human being is like every other cell of any other animal. They're cellular and the cells want to be alive. Now we have to stop putting toxins in our bodies, but it's not Dow Chemical, it's kale.
Dr. Kiltz, I want to get back to the carnivore diet and some of its common critiques. So like anyone who's been listening to this and who's just been spoon feeding everything that you've been talking about so far and they're interested in trying, I know some of the common critiques. So I just want to ask you a few of them.
Please.
One of them is fiber. So if someone's listening and they're worried about fiber in this carnivore diet, what would you tell them?
Fiber is deadly. Why would you put steel wool into your gut? Why would you put a substance that doesn't dissolve or digest in your gut? Why would you do that? Whether it's dissolvable or non-dissolvable or soluble or insoluble, it doesn't matter. It's not edible for a human being. It might be edible for a ruminant, but not humans. And you're only feeding the microbes. And so there's a good book called Fiber Menace And I think any amount of fiber might be deadly for us. Colon cancer is on the rise, bowel bleeding, hemorrhoids, all of it. And it basically fiber is deadly. And, try to stop your poop from coming out, right? This idea that we're supposed to have a bowel movement every day is manufactured marketing to sell products, has nothing to do with any truth. Constipation, all right? Imagine you're bloated and you're in pain, right? So you think you're supposed to have a bowel movement, but it won't come out. So you're using all these drugs to force it out because it's the fermentation you're feeling, not the fact that your colon is full of stool.
Got it. And what about the differences between men and women when it comes to the carnivore diet? Is there any distinctions you would make between those two?
Stay away from a woman who's carnivore because she will kick your ass. All right. We're all human beings. Fatty meat is the most healthiest thing you can eat. You must eat the fatty meat. And men and women are the same when it comes to that. We've been duped. We've been brainwashed. Women eat salad to be skinny, but skinny in a famine is stupid. Sorry for my language. It doesn't make sense, right? But again, and again, this idea that we're supposed to eat 3 meals a day is also deadly. It really is eat less frequently. 1 meal a day, 1 meal every 2 days, 1 meal every 3 days. That's not easy though. So that's why I say 1 meal a day is the very best way, and fatty meat, and men and women should do the same thing. Boys and girls, young and old. Once that baby's done getting milk from the breast, they should go to meat off the bone. That's every human being for the rest of our lives. And dementia and Alzheimer's and osteoporosis and all these diseases that are happening to the elderly over 65, me, we should be eating fatty meat also.
In full transparency, Dr. Kiltz, so I'm like 190 pounds, and I probably subscribe to eating more protein than you would recommend because I'm probably getting close to a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And I struggle to do 1 meal a day where I've tried it, but around like 10 or 11, I'm really starting to crave like some red meat, some protein. So I'm wondering if I should be maybe upping my fat and cutting back on the protein, if that would help with that 1 meal a day structure that's worked really well for you.
See, in the workout world, we've been brainwashed that protein is the most important thing. Do you know what happens to the majority of protein you eat?
What do we just
digest and
well, it breaks down to amino acids in the gut. It goes to the liver. It's converted to sugar. Then it's converted to fat.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? You're building your muscles on just eating protein? Nope.
Yeah.
See, when you learn about the glycobiome and you learn about glycosylation, when you learn about the real function of sugars and amino acids in the body, you'll be surprised. And so you got to focus on fat satiating, and your body wants fat. When you eat lean meat, your body thinks you're a scavenger. You're just suffering as a scavenger. So the dogs and the scavengers eat the protein, where the lions eat what? They eat the organ meats and the fat. The omentum is gone, right? They eat all the internal fat. Because why would you eat fat over protein? Because fat contains twice the calories of protein. Yeah. And all you care about is fat. So when you eat protein, your body thinks starvation, you better get fatter or you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
See, we think we're smart. The brain knows how to, the brain is not going to let you be a skinny little nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that we're apex predators, yet we're the only species that has no idea how to eat, like you're talking about. We can't even feed our dogs and our cats, like you said. We're not even giving them the right things.
Well, the pharaohs, the priests, the president, the professors, and the physicians know how to control humans. If I feed you plant-based diet, you will be addicted. You will stand in line to get a coffee or a beer or a hot dog on a bun or a biscuit, right? You'll stand in line to get a soup, right? And most soup is not just meat, it's mush. And mush comes from plants. And so maybe there's a simple ancient story here that, again, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, nicotine, caffeine come from what? Plants. So, but you're right. But there are other animals. I've even seen polar bears. So I love to watch nature shows. Polar bears will occasionally, when they can't get the ring seal because the ice is just not there, they will climb the top of a cliff under precarious circumstances to eat a bird's egg. Okay? And they will sometimes eat some grass, but that will not sustain them at all. They must be fat, and they get that way by eating fat. And if you really look at our ancient cultures, but maybe the masters know how to master the masses. And that's the story we're getting. Gates and I don't know whoever else is trying to make us all be convinced that we should eat meat made in a plant out of plants. We're just easily manipulated, especially when you're addicted on plants. Listen to anything.
Do you think it's nefarious, the approach to kind of controlling people through food?
Money is a deadly weapon, and it's a deadly drug. The quest for money and power for many of us is not the mission, but it is addicting and maybe nefariously created. So, look I don't know that I could say all these people are like so smart to say, they might think, I think a lot of people think plants are good to eat.
Yeah.
But that's where the plants come in. You see, you think other organisms, including plants, aren't so smart, don't you? Right?
Yep.
We've improved their DNA. We've made them be able to survive any environmental factors. We stored their seeds in like the Arctic, right? And so are they in a rush? They're in no rush.
Yeah.
They contain all the DNA and the neurologic system to be smarter than you and I are.
It's almost like humans and plants are in a race, the way that you describe it.
Well, every organism wants to be alive and thrive and survive and reproduce, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Name one that doesn't want to be alive. I mean, every bacteria, yeast, and virus, they're just on the same. I mean, how good are we at preventing any virus infections?
Not good.
We're not good because every organism needs to utilize another organism for life. Even a plant requires fertilizer. Where does it get most of its fertilizer? From other plants, other macro and microorganisms. All right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, you mentioned calories before, and there's just all this talk online about a calorie in, calorie out. We tend to try to focus on nutrient density. I know you like these simple frameworks. Do you steer more towards like the nutrient density camp, or you want to speak about like eating some more nutritious foods that have, everything you need, including like organs in there, oysters, all the healthy animal products that people kind of neglect?
Eat steak, fatty steak. Look at this idea of a nutrient. What animal is looking for nutrients? What animal says, is that a high nutrient or low nutrient? And again, I work to keep it simple because the majority of us just want simplicity. Food shouldn't be our focus. It should be our creativity. It should be our families, our community, right? Food has become an amusement park and not the temple work, right? So I don't know what a calorie is because let's see, if you're getting fatter than you want to be and famines aren't likely, eat less frequently, eat less food, and move more. All right. Okay. So now if you want to gain more weight, move less, eat more. If I just say, I don't know if I said that right, but eat less, eat more, move less.
Yeah.
Now again, but what's a calorie and what's an energy? These are human terms that none of us has somehow been able to agree on truly. And a low calorie diet. How many men and women are on an absolutely low calorie diet and they still gain weight? So are they on a low calorie diet?
Yeah. I guess that goes back to your original question. What is a calorie, or what is a low calorie diet?
Well, and then they say, well, your hormones are out of whack and obesity is a hormone problem. It's not, right?
Yeah.
Because you eat food, you are meant to get fat and store energy, because fat is the only fuel for the Ferrari, and we're Ferraris. And I know it's kind of, our brain is so full of insulin resistance, and sugar is first burned and then we burn fat. Can you even understand any of this?
No.
Right on. You can't, because the wrong story is in our brains. Do you think Otto Warburg and Hans Krebs 100 years ago are there? It's just a theory. Do you know that all science is theoretical and hypothetical? All of it, right?
Yeah.
We need that reminder sometimes.
We all do. So look, my job as a physician is make the story simple, because cholesterol causes disease, right? Okay. How do you make cholesterol, right? Well, simple. Eat carbohydrates and proteins. Your liver is going to make them, because the function of the liver via insulin is to make fat and cholesterol. But you're not meant to eat that of any significance or frequency, but you're meant to eat the fatty meat and the organ meats. That's the essential simplicity of this. And if you could go to one meal a day, that's the very best way. But if you're not doing, you can't do it, that's okay. But fasting eliminates the food in the gut. It allows the glycobiome to repair, supporting the epithelium, preventing a leaky gut. And what do you burn for energy all the time?
Fat, carbs.
Fat. Nope, not carbs. Because, okay, liver failure patients. See, this is how I figured it out. My sister died of diabetes. Type 1 diabetics are skinny. Why are they skinny?
I don't know.
Because they utilize all their fat and they can't make fat, because insulin's function is to make fat. Liver failure patients are emaciated and skinny. They have plenty of insulin and they have plenty of glucose. How come they're skinny? They're almost all diabetic. It's because the liver's function is to make fat, and that's the simple answer. And so if you damage your liver, you're done. If you have no insulin and you don't eat fat, you're done. But what happens if a type 1 diabetic without insulin eats only fat and no protein? They're going to live a longer amount of time than if you keep packing them full of amino acids and sugars, which are basically what everyone eats. Because look at the 99% of the diets that people eat. There's no animal fat.
Right.
We're effed on that one.
What's your vision of the future look like when it comes to kind of changing the tides here, when it comes to this nutrition conversation?
The 5% rule. There are 5% lions and 94% cows, pigs, and sheep. And so every single pig, cow, and sheep has the possibility to become a lion. It's only an individual decision. Doctors won't do it. Government won't do it. Industry won't do it. It's going to take you to do it. And so it's the only led by example. You can't, people come to me because I'm a doctor. This is my job in life, right? And so it's interesting. People come to me and then they ask me my opinion, and they say, well, what about this, this, and this? I said, you're paying me money to give you my opinion to get you where you want to go. You want to ask me, do we want to argue about the why part of it? Or can I just give you the way and you be done with it? Because ultimately, it's simple. We are ancient lions. I always say we came out of the trees to eat the plant eaters, not the plant.
Yet most of us are living our lives thinking that we're ruminants. Or I don't know if we think it or we realize it, but we are.
Well, we think we're ruminants, but we're not. We're carnivores. And again, can you eat plants? Sure you can. But that doesn't mean they're good for you. Because go eat a raw potato. Go eat raw corn and wheat. Just rice. Just take it off the stalk and start eating it.
And
Ain't it going to be good?
Yeah. Dr. Kiltz, something you mentioned before that we love is just this concept of keeping this stuff simple, right? It's really difficult for people to go on a nutritional journey because there's thousands upon thousands of articles with conflicting information. So you have this very simple message. And I'm just curious, right? So at the time of recording this, it's the day before Thanksgiving. We're entering holiday season, which is so stressful for so many people, whether you're carnivore, keto, paleo. There's this maybe fear of, I'm going to let myself off the rails and I'm never going to come back. And I'm just curious for you, someone who's doing so well, one meal a day, fatty red meat, salt, etc. Let yourself enjoy those things. Do you stay on your diet? I'm just curious how you think about approaching the holidays.
I fly airplanes, I drive cars, I snowboard, I walk across the street. Those are deadly things. We live in a human society. Listen, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, cyanide, arsenic are not good for us of any amount. But some turkey and pie and some stuffing from time to time, enjoy it. Come on. Look at, I'm addicted. You're not addicted. You're brainwashed. See, this idea that you're addicted, even addictions, you're brainwashed and you're poisoned by plants. Okay. You're smarter than that. You're capable of that, right? I can never eat that because I'll become an addict. Look, come on. I always say, from time to time, tonight I'm going to dinner with some friends and I'm likely going to have a few fries along with my fattiest ribeye steak, lobster, and butter. Okay. And do I chastise myself about it? No. Because what do I do 95% of the time? I have my ribeye steak, pork belly with a ton of fat and butter.
Yeah.
There's no guilt there. There's no morality. Sorry, Harry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying we associate morality and guilt and all this stuff. And like you said, you're having some fries, you're with your friends. What is that worth? And then 99.9% of the rest of the year, you're so dialed in, a couple fries aren't going to kill you or do anything harmful.
We create this guilt. Oh, you better not do that. Oh my God. Well, you have an addictive personality. I mean, we're brainwashed in that too. Oh, you're depressed all the time. Oh, you have this or that. See, you label it, you enable it. Stop labeling it that way. Now, I'm not taking away from any one individual's way of that they want to do this, but I want to help the majority of us that want to stop being, I went to therapy for a few times. Every time I went to therapy, I was had more troubles. I said, screw this, right? I want to look at the beautiful way of life, right? I love reading the shit, but then I say, you know what? Dead people have no troubles. Every trouble I have is a gift from the gods for me to grow and learn from. That's the part that we want to all learn. Failures, oh my God, the more I fail, the more I grow and learn and create. And we're already successful because we were born and we're going to die. Get over it. Just make a fool of yourself a little bit, but be kind and generous and loving to people.
Oh, Harry, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I said amen. I love that message. That's really well said. And I think that, this has been a hugely valuable conversation for us and our audience. Dr. Kiltz, what have been some of the biggest inspirations for you, for your work, over the course of your career, whether it's people who have written books, other doctors who have just drawn something out in you, anything that you could share with our audience for them to go reference?
The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Unbelievable. So good.
It's, and I love autobiographies. Let's see, Ben Franklin, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. I read the Bible. I've read every Bible. I've read about the Quran, the New, the Old Testament. We're humans. We're meant to read everything. I listen to everything. I would say that my favorite books are Man's Search for Meaning and The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And a third one is called The Three Magic Words by U.S. Anderson. And in the simple three magic words are, I am God. You see, we think God is outside of us. God is within all of us. We are the gods. Your brain is the God. Think like the gods, loving, kind, generous, and positive. That's what you want to be thinking, because every thought creates a thing in your life. And, those are the few of I've been to Tony Robbins and love his stuff, and Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra. I love modern and all the ancients. A really great one I love is Marcus Aurelius Meditations.
Incredible.
And Ryan Holiday and The Obstacles of the Way. I go down the list. You go to my website, drkiltz.com, all my books that I've found, and I'm always listening and reading a new book, which I think it's critical, and to listen, audible books, and do artwork and be a bad artist in order to be a bad artist. And everyone, see, the think create everything in our lives. So if you focus on the negative, well, that's all you see. But if you can imagine the negative was given to you by a guy or gal called God, and God is always working in your favor, then you see it a different way.
It's funny, we're half expecting you to give us books on nutrition and science, and then here we are talking mindset and spirituality, which we love, because I think it's easy, especially in the carnivore movement, to focus so much on your inputs. But it's like, what are the books that you're consuming? What does your mindset look like? It's, you can have the best diet in the world, but if you're not nourished with that spirit, what is this all for, right?
And even the worst diet in the world, and you could be healthy as can be. My grandmother lived 104. She smoked Pall Malls and drank Manhattans. Now, I'm not recommending that, but ultimately you're right. Listen, I like to incorporate faith, food, and fitness. And you don't even have to exercise, by the way. It's not required. Just do something. That's all you need to do. And go for a walk if you want. Go into nature, but you don't even have to do that. That's the amazing part of this journey. 5 a.m. Eastern time every day, I do the 5 a.m. meetup. It's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I do a live every 5 a.m. Eastern time. I'm there 99% of the time. And it's just to answer questions in this keto, carnivore, paleo world, and spirituality and all these things. This week's book is The Black Emu. Really good book. It's about Australia, a dark emu, the dark emu by Bruce Pascoe. And it's about Australian Aboriginals. See, we think the savages knew nothing. They were so advanced, we can't even understand it. And the whole part is, when we look back at our ancient nature, human beings have so advanced for probably millions of years. We just have to rethink and relook at all of us and every other organism in the universe.
That's incredible. Well, I couldn't think of a better way to end the show, Dr. Kiltz. Number one, we just appreciate you coming on. We appreciate your energy. We appreciate all the work that you're doing. For us, we're 28, 29. So to see you jump on the call, you said you're 66, turning 67, and you just have that energy that kind of like lights up the room. And we're not just saying that because we're talking to you. It's, we felt it. And, we're just excited to see what can happen, just continuing to have more conversations like this and just keep it pumping that message out there, man. It's unbelievable. So we just appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you guys and what you're doing. And if we can help those in utero and just born and early adolescents and then young adults, that's what we really need to be doing is really focusing on helping people at all levels move to a different stage of the universe. It's so important. And I have faith. Again, I'm not blaming anyone for the way the only one person responsible for everything in your life is yourself. Don't blame, the masters or the industry or the food industries or government. You don't want to do that. That's not helpful. You want to be the example and go that way.
Beautifully said. We can't wait to meet up with you in person, Dr. Kiltz, and thanks again for your time. This is great.
It's my pleasure. I'm grateful. I look forward to sharing your story also, Brett and Harry. God bless you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right, man.